6.5%, was it? Is that what the current odds are of the Stanley Cup?
Well, and if you look at the round-by-round progression, the Stanley Cup favorite is the Vancouver Canucks.
Like, what a time to be alive!
Talking you through every goalie controversy, scoring slump, and draft lottery bust, this is the C4 Podcast on CanucksHockeyBlog.com. Here they are, the best starting lineup we could afford under the salary cap. Chris, Matt, Anna, and Adam.
Welcome to another episode of the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast, brought to you by the Full Press Coverage Network and CanucksHockeyBlog.com. I am Chris at Lightforce, joined virtually, as always, by apparently the app is not focused, Anna Forsyth at aforsyth03. Welcome, Anna.
Hi, Chris. I don't know why I waved
Well, our listeners could feel it.
Yeah, that I've ever done that before, but hello.
Hello.
I think we're both feeling a bit Monday tired, so I'm just forcing the enthusiasm, fake it till you make it. Weird that I'm not feeling super enthusiastic about when we have such a dream team.
Well, you and I are the dream team, and then the team which is stuck in our dreams or nightmares is the one we talk about on a weekly basis. I like how we're coordinating, what are we going to talk about? And you're like, yeah, I got a couple of periods in, I got a lot going on, and I'm like, wait, I'm supposed to watch the Vancouver Canucks? Is this a funny requirement?
Yeah, I was just it was mainly because it was literally the last two periods of the week is the only Canucks hockey I watched this week. And it was such a terrible game that I don't even want to talk about those two periods. So, yeah.
Well, I got some news for you, Anna. The playoff dream is dead.
Saying so.
I mean, here we were talking about the possibility last week because it was just the way the Vancouver Canucks were trying to, position themselves, it seemed. Again, if anyone left that episode thinking realistically that the Canucks were going to make the playoffs, because one, it was possible, math seemed to think it was. Two, I said it. And I'd like to think our longtime listeners have finally figured out that sarcasm is very much a thing with our show.
Yeah. I'm hoping they get that because, really. I would almost love a reporter to go and ask them how they feel now that they've been mathematically eliminated from the playoffs and ask them in all seriousness.
Yeah, that won't happen ever.
No.
It could happen at the end of the season presser. By then, it's moot. We'll obviously get into what the week that was and the week that will be all about. And I don't know, it's awards season. I think by now, if Matt was still on the show, we would have talked about awards contenders for the last 2 months straight, just as a means to drum out some form of positivity. The F word is back because heaven forbid the NHL doesn't find a way to not F it up. In fairness, it's kind of a mixed F word. It's not just the NHL's fault because, our podcast is a Canucks podcast. There's something obviously to talk about there. Book club, the channel's live. We got a book to talk about. Fighter. If you haven't read it, check it out. It's a phenomenal book. It's a phenomenal read from Aaron Volpatti, who again joined us back in October. And we'd been talking about, hey, we're going to read this. We're going to do this. It only takes us about 6 months to make things happen. So that's quicker than the Vancouver Canucks building a winning team. So
took the words right out of my mouth, Chris.
Yeah. And then as well, I'm just going to mention it again at the top of the show. If you want to support our show, you can do so by going to support.c4podcast.com. So support.c4podcast.com. And you can either throw a couple of bucks our way where Anna and I go buy a pint. As a one-off, you could say, hey, I'm going to commit to helping you out on a monthly basis through a membership, or alternatively, you can commit to a full year where you get a slight little discount. Obviously, the amounts as to which you want to contribute are entirely up to you. But I do want to sort of point out, as it was raised to me, well, don't you make money off the ads? And I don't know how many times I've said it. No. Nah. None. Zip. If you don't hear Anna read it and you don't hear Chris read it, we make diddly squish. And that means everything that ultimately we pay for to make this podcast happen. And unfortunately, it's not cheap any longer because everyone and their dog is looking to make a buck in the podcast sphere, comes out of my pocket, except for the fact that we have listeners who graciously look to help to defray some of those costs. So I only bring that up just because we did make that transition away from Patreon, which was a big risk. We jumped, and not all of our patrons followed along to buy me a coffee, or as what was it that you and I like to call it?
Buy me a pint.
Yeah,
obviously.
If you go to buymeapint.com, I don't know what you will find.
No, but we just prefer to think of it that way.
Yeah, but no, all that's out of the way. Let's start talking about the week that was. So when we last recorded a show, we said that, hey, the Vancouver Canucks are going to find their way into St. Louis, and holy smokes, maybe they might win a game. And boy, oh boy, did they try. But it's like the conflict, right, that you and I had expressed. Yeah. Do we want to see Bennington lose, or do we want to see the Canucks lose? And, you know, the way the Blues won kind of feels like a win-win in my books.
Yeah, I mean, Quinn Hughes scoring that last-minute equalizer was fun. Like, it was just like, okay, it's one of those games. Yeah, not quite on the same level as the Montreal game from earlier this year, which honestly feels like 10 years ago now. But, like, it just felt like there was no quit in Vancouver, so that was fun to see.
Yeah, Quinn Hughes with a rare 2-goal night, up to 7 on the season. You know, it's interesting that the amount of time that he gets on the power play, and obviously 5-on-5, that he only has 7 goals. And I'm not trying to say that we need to see a whole lot more from him. It would be really nice if he could do it all and then some.
Right, and we may get into this in a bit more detail later, but like his assists are way up on.
Yeah. He's the playmaker. His, first pass is often the reason why the Vancouver Canucks offense, purrs along. But, this kid is doing quite a bit to indicate that he wants to be a leader on this team. And, in the lead up to the week that was, I had commented in Gate 16, having, heard his comments about the Vancouver Canucks and pride. And I'm like, if he doesn't get a C, that A better be just like bold printed. Like everyone else gets a normal A, but Quinn gets one that's like bold font.
Yeah. Quinn said a couple of fun things. Now I'm trying to remember if this was even this week, but maybe right before, when he said, yeah, people who think I can't defend aren't watching the games, which is like both a like funny, sassy shot, but also like, I like to think a veiled dig at all the people on the East Coast who aren't watching.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I love the natural leadership that came from Quinn Hughes in that moment where he talked about pride, because, as Danny Wagner said, he didn't seem to know that it was happening, but was like, well, yeah, but of course I support it. Like, we think it's important, of course.
Yeah, he also went along to say that he's worn the jersey every year. They've done a Pride Night every year, including in the bubble season, and how for him, like, this is the way this locker room is. This is the way the team is. This is the way we are. We want to make it a safe place. Like he's, to your point, unsure if it's happening
because it's Quinn Hughes.
Yeah, but I mean, even then, though, like, let's be honest, the Vancouver Canucks didn't do themselves any favors as an organization goes, because when, like, friend of the show, PJ, goes and asks, and they're like, yeah, we're just trying to figure things out. Like, smoke signals were going up, like, oh my goodness, the team's going to go and team itself. To their credit, they did not Canuck themselves in this regard. Again, we'll get into that, but Quinn Hughes, spoke quite clearly, like, no, this is about providing a welcome place, a safe place. And he wasn't the only one, which I'd like to talk a little bit about when we get there. But you look at the game against the Blues, sort of talking about that specifically. Quinn Hughes had himself, I think, a 3-point night. You know who else had himself a 3-point night?
Yeah.
Brock Besser. This is a guy who is obviously not in the core, unfortunately. He once was. He's no longer. Letter got sent out to the season ticket holders. His name was not in it. And it's like as a true, Canuck, he is doing his part to increase his value and worth.
Yeah.
And has found his production. He seems to be having fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's great to see. However long he ends up staying with Vancouver, like, if he's producing more, great. It's great for the Canucks themselves, and it's great for, maybe his trade value. Like, I do think he's a lot happier. People talk a lot about, like, his injuries, his personal struggles over the last few years, but I think there's a lot to it that he just seems to suit Rick Tocchet and, his style of playing. He scored the lone goal last night in the game against the Kings. He's getting into the right areas, so if that helps us out down the road with a little trade, then more's the better.
Yeah. And I just want to make clear, I don't want Brock to be traded.
No, that's not what I'm advocating for either.
But it's just the unfortunate situation is that this front office does not seem sold on Brock, and whether they were or they weren't, Brock is an easier piece to move to free up their situation in such a way that what type of surgery was it they said that they needed to perform takes place?
It wasn't minor. I believe it might have been major.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got 2 years left on a 6.65 contract.
I mean, that number might scare some of the suitors off, but his play as of late is helping alleviate some of that fear. And we've seen it from Brock. Like when he is healthy and is put into the right situation, which I don't think he's actually been placed in Vancouver, he can perform. He can do well. I think the Brock that we got used to in the first couple of seasons is still there. He's just unfortunately been hurt, and that has held his game back.
Yeah.
Anyway, Vancouver comes home for the Friday night game against the Flames. I believe, were in attendance. But before we get into the game itself, the Vancouver Canucks, after they lost in overtime to the St. Louis Blues 6-5, which again, kind of win-win. Yeah, the Vancouver Canucks didn't get the full 2 points, and 2, we got to see Bennington give up 5. I mean,
very funny.
Whatever he can do. The Vancouver Canucks officially announced that they, in turn, were going to be hosting a Pride Night. And why, the Canucks took as long as they did to get to this point, who knows? Maybe the answer will come out. Maybe they were wanting to, amplify the night to showcase the, LGBTQ2+ community in a way that had not occurred in other cities. Like I'd like to think, optimistically in that regard. But the Vancouver Canucks, to their credit, stepped up. If you didn't see it, they had a very safe and welcoming space. They connected to many different groups within the community, including community, which was important. They had a party in the plaza that showcased different
a drag show.
And a drag show?
That is just so politically important right now with everything going on in the US to embrace that part of the community.
Their jersey was top notch. I mean, there's debate which jersey is better, last season's or this season. I'll be honest, both were stellar. This is, and I'm not trying to it's performative. I agree, it kind of is. I wish the NHL would allow their teams to showcase that jersey for an entire game. I think it was in the A teams were, right?
I mean, probably. Yeah, they have way fewer rules and they get to do more fun stuff.
But,
but both designs are just so good.
Yeah, but the Canucks, they made a, $20,000 donation from Canucks for Kids to Community. And if, for those that don't know what Community is, it's a nonprofit that supports the 2S, so Tier Spirit, LGBTQ IA+ community and their allies. It's based here in Vancouver. It's been around for quite some time. Really good organization. And to almost a player,
Almost.
the team came out in warm-up wearing the Pride jersey. This was a conversation that had come up weeks leading up to it because of what we had been seeing happening in other teams. And it really came down to, one, are there any Canucks players who may feel, I don't want to say uncomfortable, although that might be an appropriate term to some, but comfortable expressing their uncomfortability,
Right.
unlike past seasons. And then another lens was, are there any players of Russian descent who may feel one way or the other as to whether or not they had the freedom to wear a jersey? Well, Kuzmenko, it was determined would not be wearing it. Talkit broke that news. We did not hear from Kuzmenko until after the game through Krasov, though there were, like, Krasov was scratched, so we're not sure as to where he stood on the issue.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it was incredibly disappointing. Let's say that up front. Like, I think this was pointed out when James Reimer spoke about it, but, like, the fact that he spoke to his family about it, like, okay, why not speak to actually people that are affected by it? Like, and obviously there was part of me that thought, God, I kind of hope it's because of the Russian thing. Even though we've discussed that and maybe like as to whether the threat's material or not, I would certainly judge him less harshly if that was the sole reason behind it. But when he spoke afterwards, he seemed to clarify that that was not the main reason.
Yeah, and I mean, I was disappointed. I expressed my disappointment. I said I would very much be disappointed on this show, and I'll continue to say I'm disappointed in Kuzmenko. Like, he is an exciting hockey player who, if you were to ask me, well, is this the type of player you want to build an organization around? Not necessarily from a cultural perspective, and I mean that in the sense of I would love for a very progressive, open and inclusive, safe locker room in Vancouver. I don't know if he, fits that mold. As far as his hockey skills on the ice, that's great. But to me, you can't be a phenomenal hockey player and at the same time not look at inclusion. And then there are those like, well, you inclusion folk always looking to exclude people who have different opinions. Like, how is me, when I talk about inclusion, an issue when someone who's excluded feels they need to be included? Like, I would look at this from a bigger picture and say, if Kuzmenko were to come around and say, hey, I look at this, I've grown, I've matured, my opinion has changed or what have you. That is what I'm looking for, that growth. We've talked about it on our show, like the term wokeism. And like, why is that a bad thing? Like, I have,
being aware.
I am aware.
Struggles,
I am far more, I am awake to this. And I wasn't in the past. I don't think I was a bad person. I lacked the understanding. I lacked the awareness. And I've even admitted on the show, I have said things without ever knowing the impact of these words and how, how uncomfortable they could make people feel. That's not my intent, but words carry with it this impact. So this is where I look at Kuzmenko. I am disappointed. And if this continues to be an issue, that I think is a problem. But it comes down to the culture. And, we, in Gate 16, I expressed my thoughts as such as, at what point in time does a locker room use hockey culture to explain this is what our team stands for, this is what's important? Right. And you know what? And to credit a Holmgren in Gate 16 is, he expressed this, why not scratch a player who refuses to wear this jersey? Because imagine
why are there no consequences?
Yeah, I'm not going to wear the team jersey for warm up.
You get scratched. If you miss team meeting, you're down to the AHL.
Yeah.
But failing to do part of your job. Yeah, I will say what you said about words matter. He said, obviously, I'm going to put the caveat that he said this through Kravtsov, who was interpreting for him. But the the sentiment was, I respect people's choices. I hope everyone can respect mine. And as we know, like being to us LGBTQ+, that's not choice. It's the choice is how you react to that, how you behave towards people who have this, who are LGBTQ+, like to us plus. That's your choice, and he's making a poor one. And what you said about hockey culture, yeah, you'd love to see at least one person saying, like, okay, he decided not to do that. That's not who we're about as a team. I'd love for him to get scratched as well. Have a real consequence to that decision. Love for him to get fined, something. But just saying, okay, but like we're about inclusion. He's made a choice, but that's not our culture.
Yeah. This is the other thing though, and we look at the Vancouver Canucks. The number of players that they'd create a promo video that describe like, hey, this is about creating a safe and inclusive space for all. You come here, you should feel welcome. You should have the opportunity. And, I think it was PJ as well had reached out to a number of players and talked to them. And JT Miller, who in this show, we've, always wondered about him. He said this as much. I probably surprised a few people since apparently I'm such a Miller quipped Saturday when told his message had made an impact, but thank you. It's important. Miller was one of the many players who said, no, this is what this night is about. It's about creating a safe atmosphere, a welcoming atmosphere. Yeah. I don't know JT's personal beliefs, politics, what have you, but this is a guy who, honest to goodness, saw the bigger picture.
Yeah, I think that's correct. Like, I will say I enjoyed the fact that in the video, they clearly just asked the players what hockey is for everyone meant to them and just had them answer. Honestly, it did seem like JT Miller kind of missed the point that it was about Pride Night when he just talked about people's different races and backgrounds. Yeah. But I am going to give him the benefit of the doubt because I do think he recognizes the broader point. And even if he doesn't fully agree with every element that that stands for, he's recognized, the broader point that it's about inclusion and that it's important to be part of that.
Yeah. And I think when we look at this game and the night itself, it was very appropriate that the Calgary Flames were the team that the Vancouver Canucks were playing because we talked about this in the last show. Like the Calgary Flames were the locker room came out and said, this is a safe space. They really showcased pride. And so the Vancouver Canucks and playing the Flames had a team that embraced this well. And, the Canucks show the Flames respect in that regard, but also the community beyond Vancouver. They showcased the Calgary Flames. Equally good pride design with their logo. And I hate saying good things about the Calgary Flames.
Yeah, no, their logo was sick. Rasmus Anderson spoke really well about it. So I'd encourage our listeners to dig out his quotes if you haven't.
Yeah. But the game itself, which, quite a bit of lead up to, because I feel that the message of leading up to the game was an important one. The Vancouver Canucks were taking on the Flames in arguably a position to spoil Calgary's playoff chances. Realistically, the Vancouver Canucks weren't ever going to make the playoffs, but this game, if they wanted to, was a must win, but probably a muster win for the Flames. Muster win, or a must winner, but I think it's a muster win better.
Muster win.
Canucks get themselves an early 2-goal lead, which in Vancouver is usually a safe thing, right? That's how that works. 2-goal leads, very safe.
Yeah, Canucks didn't ever give up multi-goal leads.
We had a goal from Connor Garland, another player who has found his Garland-essence under Rick Tocchet. Yeah. Or is it a Connor-essence?
Connor-essence sounds better. We'll workshop it.
Yeah.
But
I'm riffing your Brock-essence.
Hell of a goal from Connor Garland. just being alive to the play of, like, yeah, it's just like the best defense is a good offense. Like, that was the epitome of that mantra. And yeah, obviously Tyler Toffoli scored like
Twice,
and obviously Troy Stecher scored.
Yeah, I was gonna say not the only former Canuck.
But yeah, Petey was still on the score sheet again. Like, and obviously great narrative. Aidan McDonough scored. His buddy, lifelong friend Jack Rathbone was there to say well done. So that was a cool moment as well.
Yeah, McDonough got his first goal. The cool thing about McDonough scoring a goal is that on the stat sheet, he's got no picture. He is the silhouette man.
Yeah.
In fairness, there's no way they would have had a picture for him anyway, but the goal was a nice goal.
It takes the NHL a while because, like...
Well, it won't be until next year.
Yeah, because, like, I'm pretty sure he has a picture. Like, Canucks would have taken it before he got on the ice.
Yeah,
like,
but then, like, to get it uploaded on NHL.com using the fax machine that the league probably utilizes for such issues.
Exactly.
Beauvillier, I mean, I was chatting with a friend of the show, Jay, about the Canucks this past weekend, and he had talked about, like, Ratu's, got some potential. Skating isn't there. It'll be interesting how that trade, pans out. I'm like, but the Vancouver Canucks got this Beauvillier kid who was considered to be a throw-in. Mm-hmm. And, 17 goals on the season. I know not all in a Vancouver Canucks uniform, but has continued on his pace. Being separated from
Pedersen. Like, it's not just like...
Yeah. What are you talking about?
A pylon.
Oman's not Pedersen?
I mean, that give and go was fun to see, I have to say.
Yeah. But to the credit of the Calgary Flames, Calgary knew they needed the win. I think the Jets had won earlier in the night, and the third period seemed to be tilted in Calgary's favor. Vancouver playing a whole lot of game of hold on, don't screw up. But
and the officials kind of...
I mean, Petey's a goon. Let's just call a spade a spade. I mean, you got to be control of your own stick, especially when it's not your stick.
Yeah.
But unfortunately for Vancouver, they did do what they could to help the Flames out, both from the official side, but then also the puck over the glass, soon after, which made for an interesting final 2 minutes of the third period. And then that goal they scored in overtime, was it Joshua, I think, had lost the battle and was just gassed.
I don't remember. Yeah, just to clarify, I was not at this game. I was in Seattle at the time. So
I thought you were at this game. Okay, I thought you were doing like the double. Okay, so then you don't know.
That would have been cool. Yeah. No, but I have seen the highlights, but I don't remember it in that close detail.
All right. But the Vancouver Canucks lost in overtime, which created a scenario as to which the Sunday nighter against the Los Angeles Kings could result in the Vancouver Canucks officially being eliminated from playoff contention. And the Los Angeles Kings were kind enough to help the Vancouver Canucks, find that destiny come true. The Canucks got the first goal. Brock Besser early in the first, real nice goal. And then that was that.
Yeah. I mean, so I did watch the last 2 periods of this. I have seen the LA Kings play twice this weekend. Because that was the game in Seattle, was the Kraken versus Kings.
But you weren't in the barn here. You were watching on TV.
No. I was watching on TV. But, I will say I hope the Kraken and the Kings have something else in their, in their locker for the rest of the season and postseason, if that happens, because 2 games of terrible hockey. Kings were not great yesterday. They were just better than the Canucks. And you're sure that's fine if you're you're playing a weaker team, you're just trying to conserve energy, get the job done, whatever. But Kraken Kings should have been this huge game. It sucked. Nothing happened for a period and a half. It was so scrappy.
I can't speak to the Kraken Kings games.
No, obviously
did not watch. I watched the Whitecaps put on a beating of the, Club de Football Montreal, but used to, I was going to say Montreal Impact, but they're not the Impact no more.
Oh, okay.
It was 5-0 Vancouver.
Quick sidebar. Are the Whitecaps good now?
No.
Okay.
Well, okay. It's early in the season. They do have some issues that need to be sorted out. They beat a team at the bottom of the Eastern table handily, and a team that was down a player early in the first. So, I'd be more concerned had the result not been the way it was. But there are a couple of young players who really shined on Saturday in Betcher and Ahmed, and I think the Caps might be figuring deployment out. So I'll have to get you to a match. You can,
Yeah, I literally couldn't name a player these days, whereas I would usually go to at least one a year so I could keep.
What, you can't name Ryan Gauld, the Scottish Messi?
Is he the Scottish Messi?
Well, before he came to Vancouver, that's what he was being talked about as being the Scottish Messi.
In the same way that Dale Weiss is Dutch Gretzky.
No, not that way. Not that way at all. I mean, Ryan Gauld's a legit player. When Vancouver won out to sign him, it was considered a big deal. And you had I think Celtic was rumored to be in on it. Celtic? Okay, I said Celtic.
Yeah, I know. It's confusing because it's not the same as the actual word Celtic.
I'm trying to think. There might have been a championship side I think was in on it. And here the Whitecaps won out. So I think that speaks. I would have done
that if I was him.
Well, that's the thing is.
Sorry.
I think that speaks though to the player. Is it that he took an opportunity where he'd be able to play over a opportunity? Yeah. So I don't know. But
sorry.
Back onto the Vancouver Canucks train here, because again, this is a Canucks podcast. The Vancouver Canucks, now that they're out, are left in a position where their sole task is to ruin things for other teams in the league.
Yeah, I feel like they'll enjoy that more than being cooperative and losing.
Yeah. Who is it that they can really ruin? Maybe Calgary, but Calgary is in a weird position where they might be done before the Vancouver Canucks get an opportunity. I guess the Canucks could make the Kraken sweat a little. That being their next game tomorrow or today, depending on when you're listening to the show. I mean, Chicago's been out since November. Mm-hmm. Let's see. They got the Kings in the mix, but they're clinched, so there's no worry there. The Ducks have been out since October, and then you finish up your season playing in the Mullet Arena in front of 300 people against the Coyotes, who, credit to Arizona, are behind Vancouver. So there's a whole lot of mean nothing hockey.
Yeah, I mean, all you got to do is give yourself the most information for next year, right? That's all you should be trying to do. That's all Canucks should have been trying to do for many weeks now. But surely that's what you do with the remaining time. Give your Abbey players a warm up.
Are the Kraken playing tonight?
Good question.
The only reason I ask is I'm just looking at the games played here, and the Kraken have 2 games on hand on the Flames right now.
Right.
Seattle's got 75 games played. Flames have 77.
Oh yeah, they're beating the Coyotes handily right now.
Oh, okay. So, if Seattle were to win tomorrow or today, depending on your perspective, I mean, I think that's worse for the Flames, is that Calgary would then have a game in hand and would have themselves a solid 5-point lead.
Yeah. I mean,
anyhow,
I'm not gonna lie, it would be a tiny bit funny if that ended up happening.
What, that the Kraken beat the Canucks, or?
No, that the Kraken losing out because they couldn't beat the Canucks.
Oh, okay, well. I mean,
does that mean?
Yeah, it is. Considering you were down there, who are you cheering for in Seattle? Out of curiosity.
Well,
sitting
I
up
mean-
at street level, because the way the stadium is the ice is like 2 stories below street level, and where your seats were, pretty sure that was street level.
Nosebleeds for sure.
Well, it's not a nosebleed when you're at ground level.
Yeah, that's true. I'm gonna do a quick sidebar on the arena because have to explain what it's like. The arena is there's so much that's great about the Kraken. The arena is not part of that.
What? In fairness, they retrofit.
They retrofitted
the key arena to Climate Pledge, and
but yeah, it was literally it looks like an airport when you go in. It's massive on the concourse, which could be nice. You get a bit more breathing room, but there's just nothing there. There's
what are you talking about? You need all that room to carry your, 2 $30 beers. Did you have a $30 beer or whatever it is?
I did have a beer, and someone asked me how much it was, and I had to admit that I didn't pay for it because I will be, but my American friend paid with her credit card, so not 100% sure. But it was good beer, but
a 30% premium on top of Seattle Tech prices.
Yeah.
Ain't cheap.
The whole arena smells like canned meat.
Really?
Well, I say the whole arena. The part of the arena, the 2 parts of the arena we sat in, because it's also very confusing where things are. And yeah, I will say the fact that the press box hangs over the top part is just annoying. I don't like not being able to see the other side of the arena. It's very distracting when you have people constantly walking up and down.
Well, yeah, because if you see the picture that Anna shared on social media, it looks like, oh, you're in the rafters, which you kind of are, but there's glass, and you can see the door. I was going to ask you, is that suites or that was press box? Huh?
It's press box, and I did check with our good friend Darren Brown. I was just asked him if they were suites, and he's like, "Oh,
Could
no, that's actually
he poke it out and waved it at you from the glass, with his press pass?"
He did message me and say hello, but yeah, they also have NHL official stuff there. But yeah, so I just wouldn't as we say, it's retrofitted, so it's not like they completely had freedom to choose how everything was set up. But yeah. Their rink is not the best, but their in-game entertainment is great, and the fans are great. So I really enjoyed the experience. But
how many goals did they score?
LA won 3-1.
Okay, so you got one goal, one Nirvana hit, and that was that.
Yeah, that was that. But it was just really fun the way they had all the in-game entertainment. They definitely lean into the sea thing. Mm-hmm. But it's cheesy, but in a fun way. I liked it. I think Canucks could learn a lot from them. But also just the fact that Rogers Arena is so much, even though Rogers Arena is so gross, it's nicer than that arena. You just need to if you redid Rogers, the setup of the arena is so much nicer. Just liquor paint, new seats, few different changes, and you'd really Rogers Arena would be really good.
Yeah, Rogers is an old barn now. All things considered, there's a lot that can be learned, but in fairness, it's an old barn. I know it's not the oldest, but it is old.
But me and PJ complained a lot about that when he was on. But yeah, so there's just a few changes they could make.
Yeah. Did you see the picture of the Rog having 2 blue seats?
I did. I think it was Daniel Wagner who pointed out, who gets to sit in those 2 seats? Maybe it was Rob Williams, someone. I
was going to say that. Wyatt wearing his Fanatics jersey. Yeah,
Wyatt and Jordan should be the ones sitting in there. Yeah. But yeah, hopefully that's at least one tiny thing that we've been complaining about for 5+ years that they can fix.
Yeah. Just as we sort of wrap up Rewind here, talking about the Kraken, I did want to give a quick update on a friend of the show, Andy Ide. So if you recall, a few weeks ago, we had let off with a cold open to let you, our listeners, know that Andy had collapsed while covering the Kraken and had suffered from a stroke. He was in the ICU. Since we last talked and provided an update, he has since Well, I believe he is still in the ICU, but everything is sort of going in the right direction. He's no longer on supplemental oxygen. He is no longer in a coma as he was when we last spoke, and he is responsive to conversation. But I just want to talk as well about the outpouring, the amount of support that he's receiving from not only the community, but the Kraken themselves. There is a GoFundMe because, as our listeners know, healthcare in the United States is very expensive. But, and I'm not trying to suggest that money is how you measure commitment, but the Seattle Thunderbirds stepped up with a $10,000 donation through GoFundMe. The Lewicki family is well over $10,000. Ron Francis, $2,500. And in conversation with the few people that I know sort of around the scene, the team has been hey, what's going on? What does the family need? We're staying out of the way. We're here. Let us know. Dave Hackstall made comment about, it was good to see that they're keeping Andy's spot available and it will be there for him when he returns, referencing it, keeping Andy, front of mind. And I think that's awesome that the Kraken are doing this, but also what's even more awesome, that Andy is doing well and going in the right direction.
Yep.
We're going to take ourselves a short break. You're listening to the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast, brought to you by the Full Press Coverage Network and CanucksHockeyBlog.com.
Take hitting out of the game. You can't hit anymore, so don't do it.
The unsportsmanlike conduct, I want to get an explanation on it.
No kidding.
Because how do you get suspended for unsportsmanlike conduct?
Plus interference. There's no interference there. He had the puck.
Now, Madison never ever did that before. Now, why did he do it? And that because he was mad.
Well, your early favorite for the Calder Trophy, that's for sure. Elias Pettersson, you might even say your early favorite for the Hart Trophy.
Just to get back to your question, Elias is going to play plenty. He's going to get a lot of power play time. And, yeah, I'm concerned about our offense. We lost 200-point players, and we've got to find a way to score.
So we let off the show. Awards season is coming up. I mean, the Vancouver Canucks are actually allowing you to vote on, awards because, hey, not much else to do as far as positivity is concerned. But you raised a very good question in the rundown. Hughes for Norris. Is it time he gets some respect? What do you think, Anna?
Well, I mean, I think the second part is definitely key because I'm not saying Hughes is going to win the Norris this year, or even necessarily get close, but he deserves to be close. He is the best, his all-round defensive play is just right up there with the best. In terms of, you can point to Erik Karlsson, who's had a hell of a career.
Well, and in fairness to Karlsson, though, statistically, outside of him being on the ice for a whole lot of goals, and the actual analytics not trending in Karlsson's direction that way, the guy's got 95 points to Quinn's 73. Quinn's second in the league, but Karlsson's got a solid 22-point lead. And when you look at ice time, we know Quinn's been playing 60 minutes a game, it seems. Quinn's trailing Karlsson by about 10 seconds.
Yeah, and I think that really points to the teams they're on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because very important players like Karlsson, way more even than Quinn Hughes to their team. Maybe Karlsson should get the Hart instead. But yeah, I think, as you say, in the metrics that really are good indicators of a good offensive and defensive defenseman, I think Quinn Hughes has it. I think Karlsson's a very important player to his team, but a lot of it is him making up for, bad effort of his teammates. He plays a lot because they're constantly chasing the game. He has a lot of takeaways and has a lot of hits because, again, they're constantly chasing the game and they're depending on him to help for that. So I would say that, yeah, I still think Quinn Hughes on balance is better all round, even if you will say that, yeah, he should be scoring more.
Yeah. I might upset people. I don't necessarily think Quinn wins it this season. I agree. His statistics suggest he needs to be in the conversation. And the thing that hurts Quinn, actually I think it hurts him the most, he plays in the West. And, and he's playing for the Canucks. Maybe there's two things. Yeah. So what Karlsson is getting hurt by are those same two factors, but it's then difficult to ignore 95 points on the season.
And plus his storied career,
he carries an amount of gravita that Quinn just doesn't possess. No, it's not knocking Quinn. The resume just isn't there yet.
100%. Yeah. I mean, you're fighting uphill battle if you're on PT, like you just are. And a lot of these awards are like people that know you. It's like,
well, it's not only that, but when you look at the number of, eligible voters, many of them don't provide too much significance to analytics. Not to suggest they ignore them. I don't necessarily say it's the case, but they look at GAP. Those are the letters that mean the most to them. And, Erik Karlsson is currently in each category leading. Like for goals, top with 22, for assists, top with 73, and as we know, top with 95 points. And, for Quinn, 66, assists is great, but the goal difference to Karlsson is an issue. But then beyond that, many of these voters who are eligible are based out of the East or based in Central and what have you. They may not be staying up so late to watch the teams out West. And now you're having to go and deal with the fact that you've got Morrissey in Winnipeg. You got Dougie Hamilton in Jersey, Adam Fox. Like these are players, Rasmus Dahlin, like all of those players have very similar statistics as to the GAP that Quinn has, but probably are seen more frequently.
And let's be honest, like another thing that Quinn Hughes suffered from is he's had no consistent defense partners. He's had to play with Noah Juulsen,
and he's done as well.
Despite that, so that should be taken into account. But also,
you have to watch the game to know, to know that's the case.
And I will say, Erik Karlsson has more points, but it's not. It should be an award for an all-round defenseman. And, maybe they need separate awards for two different kinds of defensemen. I don't know. If the writers continuously not use their imagination, then maybe you do need two separate awards for offensive and defensive defensemen, which is lame to say because I feel like you should be able to balance that in their minds as writers, but maybe you do. I mean, we haven't even started on the Hart yet, but everyone knows my opinion on that award. It's stupid.
Well, you said Karlsson for Hart, and I'm like, how dare you take it out of McDavid's hands?
Yeah. I mean, it's just a McDavid award. It's by the criteria. It's set up for McDavid to win it every single year. I don't know. But I think there's a good argument for Karlsson because how important is he to San Jose? Not that it's a difference maker.
No, I mean we're gonna go into a whole tangent here about what the Hart means and what it actually is applied to. Karlsson gets the Norris. The Hart goes to whoever scores the most points in the league. Isn't that that's how it works? The Hart goes to the most points, not the MVP to the team.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's just if you wanted to set up your award as to be so oddly specific as the Hart is set up to be, then actually apply those metrics. But yeah.
In all fairness, though, to Connor McDavid, if you take McDavid out of the picture in Edmonton, they don't make the playoffs, despite Draisaitl.
Yeah.
Right? He is very valuable. But that's the thing. You have two of them, and. We joked about this last episode where, oh my goodness, you got these two players in Edmonton may not make it. I mean, Edmonton was was making the playoffs. We weren't trying to suggest otherwise. But yeah, when it comes to the Hart, it is, as you say, a very weird award. Did you want to go through the awards? Because I mean, the only one that the Vancouver Canucks would have any, sniff at was Norris, and as much as we think Quinn should be within the conversation, he's going to get some votes. I would be I'd be shocked, considerably shocked, if he doesn't finish third in voting.
Okay.
Which I feel he should be. I feel he should be second. Yeah. But I would be shocked if he doesn't finish third. And if he doesn't finish third, he finishes lower than that. I think that clearly shows a significant Eastern bias, because that's ultimately who we see above.
Yeah. See, I'm not going to be shocked if he doesn't finish third, but
like what, 4 or 5?
It'd be a travesty. Like, yeah. I think he's going to finish fifth. It sucks, but I think that's true.
Who do you got winning the Vezina? You're thinking hard here. I could see the brain just heating up.
I mean, it is kind of just like who, like, it's always Vasilevsky's award to lose, isn't it?
Yeah, but I don't. He doesn't have the most, like Vasilevsky right now doesn't have the most wins. His save percentage is not the best. His GAA is not the best. Like right now, that's Linus Ullmark.
Yeah,
Linus Ullmark. And Boston's having a heater of a season, so.
Yeah, and it's weird for me to say that because like their like backup situation, like they're a really good tandem, but I think
47 games played. I mean, not as significant. And this is to that point, like this is where Boston having a heater of a system, could that hurt Ullmark? Because it could be the thought is that they're not doing so well because of their goaltending. Their goaltenders are looking really good because of the team in front of them. So we then have, Georgiev in Colorado. You got Sherskin in New York.
Yeah, I still think Ullmark wins it. But because I mean, with Boston Bruins record, and as you say, they lack the imagination to pick someone else. But I do think it's weird to think of it when I do think Ullmark and Swayman great combo, and should there be a minimum number of games played?
Well, what would that be though, right? It is an AB. Ullmark's got 47 so far. So he'll probably push 50, which is a little over half.
But Boston cruise control right now.
Well, yeah, no, yeah, but that's the thing. So if this all sort of starts hurting him, Georgiev, Sherskin are both in the 50s. Hellbuck is in the 60s. I
think Hellbuck's been unfortunate because I do think there are some years when he has been.
Yeah, Vasilevsky, Ottinger will be in the 60s for sure. I mean, Georgiev and Sherskin could be.
Georgiev was great last year, but I don't think he makes it. Yeah, I still think it's Ullmark, but overall.
Okay. The Ted Lindsay Award for the most outstanding player. So, one of McDavid and Draisaitl. Yeah. I mean, last year it was Austin Matthews both ways for the Hart and Ted Lindsay. The difference, though, is Ted Lindsay is voted on by the players.
Yeah. Is there anyone else that we're Pasternak? I don't know.
Well, this is the thing. Is Pasternak truly that exciting? I mean, look, okay. McDavid has 146 points on the season.
Yeah.
Draisaitl 120. And it's a 20-point gap between those two, and it's close to a 20-point gap between Kucherov and Pasternak. I just don't see how it's not a McDavid award. And if it's not a McDavid award, it's because the players gave it to Draisaitl because McDavid already gets the Hart.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. Jack Adams.
Yeah, I see. The problem I have with the Jack Adams is I don't know what's worth more to the voters. Is it a team's unconceivable record, or is it the way a coach impacts the team? And we've seen it sort of go both ways, right? Oh man. Well, who do you have? Let's see if you can influence me.
I mean, like, if you're talking about impact in the amount of time, I mean, it's not obviously going to be Rick Tocchet, but, like, what an impact in a short space of time. Yeah, like, they'll probably just give it to Jim Montgomery.
Well, I mean, because, like, if it's not Jim Montgomery, right? If it is truly not Jim Montgomery, then we have to go and look at, impact to a team. And you're not going, I don't think, you're not going to Carolina, you're not going to Toronto. Well, maybe Carolina. I don't think you're going to Toronto with that award, right?
I mean, Rob Brind'Amour, like, consistent impact on the team.
Right. But that's the thing is, like, if you're not going, like, what are you looking at if it's not Montgomery? Yeah. I mean, he's got his team. So just to, let our listeners know, because I know none of us pay attention to what's going on in Boston because it's a horrible team. They have 60 wins out of 77 games. Okay. They finally did break the double-digit mark for losses. Their goal differential, and I know plus minus is not a statistic we would lean on, but I feel goal differential still is something you have to consider. 120 on the plus. Like, to put that into perspective, other really good teams have plus 50. Boston plus 120.
Yeah. It's insane. Like, the record this year is insane.
It's going to be sad that they're going to potentially win a Stanley Cup twice since 2011. Oh.
Yeah. Do you, like, is Lindy Ruff in the conversation? Because Devils have had such a great year. Like, just the improvement of the Devils. Like, I know that he still coached them last year, but
no, I guess, but, like, that's the thing. Like, I don't feel like, if you're not going to give it to Montgomery for the season that Boston is having.
Yeah, no, you have to, like, because as we kind of said, it's a whole system that's impressive, right?
It's kind of like our conversation about the Hart. The Hart's McDavid Award because he's got the most points and then some. Like, it's not close. Does he have the greatest impact? Well, he has a significant impact at Edmonton. It's maybe not the greatest example, but we've seen the Hart been awarded to players who honestly don't have the greatest impact. I mean, hell, we're Canucks homers, so we're going to obviously point out that Hank should have won the award because you take Hank out of the picture of that team and the Canucks are in shambles. I don't even remember who it was that won that season because I blacked it out. But the players knew, and they gave him the Ted Lindsay that season. And then, unfortunately for Hank, Daniel got it.
Yeah,
Both.
I know, brutal.
Yeah, how horrible that your brother gets to rub that in.
Yeah.
Who do you think's going to get the Calder?
I mean, even though Seattle have dipped slightly over the last week or couple weeks, I still think Matty Beniers deserves it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's had a solid season. He's backing up his death stare. So
yeah, I still think his name it would be more fun if he pronounced his name like it was French.
Yeah, I haven't a clue who gets the Selke because the best defensive forward.
The Patrice Bergeron Award?
Yeah, pretty much. And I wonder why there's the best defensive forward, but no best offensive defenseman.
Well, it goes back to our conversation. Awards don't make sense.
And then from there, I mean, the rest are like Lady Bing. I have no idea how they go and award that. To be honest.
Who's got the least penalty minutes? Is it?
Well, okay, but that's the thing is that to what metric? Because it based on games played? Is it the team that they've played? Like it's not. It's the most gentlemanly. Like
I know.
Ugh.
Well, apparently the Blues have the fewest penalty minutes by team this season,
well,
which is
such a polite group of people.
Come on, how can a team with Jordan Binnington on have the least penalty minutes? But
yeah, curious where you are, listeners. slot into all this? I know you put in the rundown. Does PD have a shot at Hart? Hell to the no.
Like,
I mean,
no, he doesn't. But like, do we think he does in a few years' time, or do you think it's something that
I'm more worried that if he does, it's not in a Canucks uniform because he's pieced out on this team because it's continuing to live in mediocrity, which is a very dark timeline.
Yeah.
Oh God, if he goes to the East, he'll win it. We're going to take a very quick break here because we've got some Fs in that we need to hand out.
He liked to say the F word.
Oh, then get the here then. Okay, see ya.
Is going to have the F word on it.
I wish I could give you an explanation about it. I can't. You, out of here.
You said the F word, Dad.
You called me the F word.
So we touched on the issue with Pride events in regards to Kuzmenko and Vancouver. Yeah. We have seen St. Louis making that decision not to wear jerseys because that seems to be the team's out now. Once one team decided they didn't need to do it, other teams are not, which it just confounds me because if you're not going to wear jerseys, like Pride jerseys, that performative action, in what world?
That's the easiest thing to do.
In what world do you like? And I get it. Like imagine the United States not wearing, the military appreciation uniform or the, thin blue line uniform.
Yeah. Like if you can't even do the performative gestures, I have no confidence whatsoever that your team is like doing lots of pride initiatives and supporting in the community and whatever vague statement you want to give. Like it's easiest, it's the most visible, thing to do, and it's like by not doing it, that's an action in itself, and it's might sound dramatic, but it's an act of violence. Like it's saying to people that already feel like they're on the outside of the sport, like, no, you're not welcome.
Yeah, but the issue that I think is worth talking about on our podcast is actually PK Subban. As we know, there has been a lot of light shone on the league, on the teams, on many of the players as they continue to tiptoe around what they perceive to be a very delicate issue when it comes to hosting Pride events. Like we've not actually seen any of this issue come to light with any of these other events. Many teams do provide support to groups and people who lack the visibility within this mainstream sport or this very cisgendered sport that we talk about. And PK came out and said that players, and I'm paraphrasing here, should not be forced into becoming activists because it is unfair, and that they do not need to wear a rainbow jersey or a hat to support the LGBTQ plus community. Now, PK's right. They shouldn't be forced. I personally feel that they should all just do it. I understand my views apparently aren't common to many. In fact, they might say, that's your inclusion being so exclusionary. Well, the simple performative task of throwing something on as you skate around the ice for 10 minutes is such a big deal that you'll say, nope. I talk to my family. It's not for me. I have a faith that tells me it's wrong. I love people. Everyone can do their own thing. Don't want to support you, but I will. Like,
yeah.
And then PK comes out and
I just don't like, like I said, I don't like or buy into the idea that a player who refuses to wear a Pride jersey is somehow doing good things behind that we just don't know about. Like,
well,
why wouldn't they just wear the jersey? I have a massive amount of sympathy of what PK Subban went through at the hands of the media.
Oh, and it continues to go through.
Yeah, exactly. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, he's not had an easy ride. I just don't think this is the right take.
Yeah, and I mean, this is where what is he trying to articulate and say? I think is fair. His point is fair. We should not be pushing everyone to be an activist, but that's not. Well, I don't think this is activism. It's about being supportive, about being inclusive, about providing a welcome and safe space. I mean, Ethan Bear was asked about it, and to him, I mean, again, I will paraphrase here, was that growing up as he did, to him, this is what you do. You want to ensure it's welcoming. You can't pick and choose who should be have access to the safe space. And that's what I feel this is about. PK has a different lens. And there are areas where I would look and say, okay, tell me more. This is a weird spot. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not, to me, it goes against what the meaning behind these nights is.
And yeah, I might go on a just little rant here, and you might say this is dramatic, but I think it's what PK was doing, just letting people off the hook. And that's what the league has been doing. Like, Ivan Provorov got away with it, so everyone else got away with it. Chicago, St. Louis, like, they're just taking the easy way out. It's not easy to do the work of inclusion, but if you can't even do, like, the basic stuff, it sucks. And you're allowing people to say, you're allowing all the people on Twitter to say, yeah, why are we doing hockey is for everyone? I don't want that near my sport. Like, you're allowing that. And that trickles down. Like, I looked up some statistics here. This is the most recent Stats Canada that they have, but hate crimes went up 27% in a year in 2020 to 2021, like, against the LGBTQ community. That's a huge jump. I think that's, like, honestly, that's despicable, but it's just this pervading attitude that has me really worried, honestly. Like, trans violence is huge right now. And I just don't understand how, like, they can't see the connection. Like, people are dying right now, and you can't just put on a jersey for 20 minutes to say, hey, like, I know the world is tough, but here you're okay. Like, here you're welcome. And this small part of your life can be easier.
Yeah. The part that you had talked about, just not to sort of rewind too far back, but you talked about how Savannah said, oh, well, the players are doing things behind the scenes, and why isn't the media talking about it? He actually goes on, and I feel he really does a disservice to what these nights stand for when he talks about, oh, it's the media's fault, because that plays into a narrative that gets trotted out, is that everything is one-sided. We should hear from all sides of the narrative. And I won't disagree that the media, whomever you might be consuming from, is presenting you their interpretation as to what they've learned. It's very important to filter out the opinion. Like, if a player were to go and say this, and the quote is taken without full context of an entire statement, I agree. There's an issue there. But when you go in and you simply quote, the people that write the articles, the people that push certain narratives in the media, they have to be held accountable. You have just gone and dropped a what about them, a what aboutism.
Yeah. What about he sucks? It's such a crap argument. Yeah, like, even just on a very minor level, how the Canucks turned around and just made it seem like the media and the fans had inflated this narrative.
Oh, no, that was all the Canucks. Pride. It was a very simple question, and we're not sure what we're doing.
Exactly.
You know how they could have answered that?
Working.
Yeah, we're working on it. We'll have more to announce soon.
Yeah, because surely they had, like, the artists, they had everything set up by that point.
Like, there's so much they could have done. Like, they could have gone and built this up. we're not quite there to reveal, our plans. There's so much that could have been, and this is like, could you have imagined what the conversation would have been about leading up to what the Vancouver Canucks ultimately did, which in the current climate, especially, as we see it here in North America, but worldwide, to embrace the LGBTQ plus community as they did, it would have just built right up from the beginning.
Yeah.
Not these seeds of doubt, which the media were not the ones who dropped the seeds from the sky.
That's not good suspense building.
No.
Like, that's a terrible way to behave, honestly, playing with people's emotions. Because there'll be, like, LGBTQ fans who will say, oh, well, I'm not going to that game now because I don't actually know if it's going to be what I think it is. It's not going to be the show of support that I was looking for. Yeah. And, it just wasn't a good way.
No.
At all.
And I'll defer to you when it comes to storytelling because from what I understand, you're a quarter finalist in 2 different categories.
Yes, correct. One of them, being for a script I wrote about 2 gay hockey players. So, it's funny. Like, sometimes I've, included diverse characters and covered diverse issues, and people say, oh, but that's not really an issue anymore. It's like, oh, God, that privilege to say stuff like that.
Well, okay. I had one person engage my comment about being disappointed about Kuzmenko. Fairness, probably a bot. Name numbers usually is a good sign. But the bot or the person is like, oh, there's already enough recognition in Knights. And I'm like, one, I did not realize that there were lines in the sand as to which the amount of support one has received is sufficient, you can have too much support. But to have the audacities to suggest that there is enough, because if there was enough, it wouldn't be an issue. It wouldn't be a conversation. I wouldn't have had a reply.
Even if you were just looking at this from a purely robotic numbers point of view, do you really want to include a whole disclude and exclude a whole segment of the population when you're already struggling for fan base and numbers? Do you want a player? Do you want Luke Prokop when he becomes the star of the league to put your team on a no trade list because I don't know, I'm playing for you guys? There's just so many dumb decisions. The NHL is one of the least diverse of the major sports, and it's also the lowest market share. Weird.
You'd think there's some correlation to be found there, but there's already enough support. It's fine. Leave it as it is. In fact, there's those who are like, I just wish it was better back in the day when this wasn't a thing. Yeah. Wasn't a thing. Yeah. So the Canucks, as we let off, eliminated from the playoffs. They get to play spoiler for the next couple of weeks. What does it mean for our podcast? Well, it does mean we'll probably be getting to our off-season schedule sooner than later because we won't have Canucks playoff hockey to talk about. Looking ahead, we still got a couple of more weeks in the season, and we'll probably continue to record weekly through to the end of the month, end of April. As we get into May, we'll transition into our sort of off-season schedule, which is every 2 weeks. And we'll communicate that over the next few episodes as you and I get our act together and figure that out.
Yes, but that is to say that usually we will be taking a week off next week because of holidays. Easter. But because we love you guys and because the end of the season is nigh, we have decided to record. So we will be back in your ear holes next week.
The summer, we'll do stuff. I think we'll have to have at least one event. This time actually have it in the summer. It might just be a get together with a handful of people at a bar, but we'll have something. If you need to travel here, let us know now. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Hello. And we will do our best to coordinate around those who don't reside in Metro Vancouver. So there's that. But yeah, we'll obviously talk about more to come as the Well, seasons change. Anna, what final words of wisdom do you have for all of our listeners this week?
Honestly, I think I'm spent after the F word. Yeah. Just, I think my non-hockey supporting Gen Z colleague, like, put it pretty well today. I won't use the exact quote she gave me because, you know, language, etc. But
yeah, we're not that kind of podcast, unfortunately.
yeah, she does not like sports. She just says, like, you know, they're not politicians, they're not writers, like, they're not speech writers, they're not thought leaders. There's just a pretty low bar for sports people, and it's don't be mean. Don't be a mean person.
May I summarize?
Yeah.
Be kind. I mean, actually,
That's it.
I mean, Baby Force, this is a conversation we had about a week or so ago, and she was telling me that, you know, there are some really not nice people. And I'm like, well, what makes them not nice? Well, they're just not nice, Daddy, because they need to learn it's important to be kind. And I'm like, my soon-to-be 6-year-old daughter gets it. It's so easy. You'd think. Right? So, anyway, here we are, end of an episode. Obviously, if you want to take part in the conversation, let us know your thoughts. You can do so in many different places, one of which is Twitter at the C4 Podcast, or alternatively in Discord, discord.io/C4 Podcast. You can, if you want, drop us a voicemail. It's been a long time since someone did, and it could be that maybe it's because I'm sharing it now, an hour and 15 minutes into our episode, that people have already tuned out. But you go to speakpipe.com/C4 Podcast, record something. We will include it in an upcoming episode. Share our thoughts and respond. And if Bowman or Stanch are listening, you ever want to promote one of your 20 podcasts, I will play it verbatim. I might make fun of you for it, but hey, there's your shot. Feud or no feud. You can find our entire back catalog at c4podcast.com, obviously. And yeah, I think that's it. Did I miss anything, Anna?
No, I think that's it.
Cool. Well, on behalf of Anna, 4603, myself, Chris at Lightforce, signing off the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast, brought to you by the Full Canucks Network and CanucksHockeyBlog.com with We Out.